Hey guys, so we're gonna do a video that's dual purposes here. So we're gonna record here on the podcast, but I'm also we're making a TikTok as well. So If you'd like to watch the TikTok to get the full visual of what's going on here, we'd really appreciate it.
Please do.
I'm holding up a piece of paper for those of you who are listening on the podcast, that has some information, but hashtag justice for Noah is at the top. Janita's going to explain the situation a little bit here in a second, but our podcast today that we're going to talk about is going to deal with some pretty heavy stuff, and this is going to be episode 6.
Yeah,
we made it to episode 6, so here we are. So, I'm just heartbroken, and I don't really, I'm lost for words, honestly. So, if you wouldn't mind just kind of covering what's going on here.
So the other night I was staying up kind of late, and I found myself stumbled across a TikTok of Actually, it was Mama Tot. If you guys are familiar with that TikToker, Mama Tot, she did a TikTok where she discussed the issue that's going on that I'm going to share with you here in just a moment. But mainly, it struck a chord with me, and I felt like it was very relevant to the things that Tria and I have experienced in the church, or a part of like church organizations, or just being around religious people in general. So what we're going to talk about has to do with this situation. So we're going to start with this. This mom on TikTok, her name is Ciera. Ciera Lawrence, I believe is what it is. She's this beautiful young lady who is very adamant about getting this message and the story out there. So that's why we're talking about it right now. We need to bring awareness to little Noah, her son. He is 4 years old now. He was 3 when the incident occurred. He was attending long story short, he was attending a daycare that was attached to a church in Texas called Greater Life Church in Webster, Texas. And at this daycare, he went to the bathroom, and he was basically sexually assaulted by at least one man, is what they're saying. But the way that Noah describes it is that there were 2 bad men, and there was a child that was also present. So the reason why we're bringing awareness to this is because too often, and this is where maybe my fire is going to come out a little bit here, but too often we tell people that they are lying, that they are bringing up false information, or that they are just crazy or whatever. Like there's a gambit of reasons.
It's gaslighting.
It's gaslighting. Yeah, absolutely. And the sad part is that after this experience, for those of you who, may be like, well, what proof do they have of the situation? And I encourage you to go over to Ciera's TikTok, Noah's mom, Ciera. Go ahead. It is Justice for Noah 1111. That's her TikTok. And in her TikTok, she will go through, and she has different parts where she has described the event in more detail. And I'm not going to get into too much of the detail on here because I feel like that's their story to tell. However, what I will tell you is that a rape kit was done directly after the situation, and a forensic nurse did verify that this situation occurred. Okay? Now, being a 3-year-old little boy, obviously his words are limited. His description of the experience is going to be limited, which we know that, unfortunately, abusers are very aware of this when they're, doing this to someone. So, with that being said, I encourage you guys to educate yourselves more on the situation, but they do have a petition to sign. They also have a GoFundMe, because she's a freaking single mom who is trying to bring awareness to the situation, and the GoFundMe is for court costs. The GoFundMe is for a lawyer. The GoFundMe is for protest funding protests and stuff. So please, if you feel led to, go check out the story. Let's bring some justice for Noah. Yes. And many, I know there's so many other stories that are out there like that. And if any of you ever have a story like that you want us to bring awareness to, please reach out and let us know, because we would, honestly, it's kind of our mission, I feel like, after all the crap that we've been through, to bring things like this forward. So when I saw this, it was like, no, we got to highlight it. She does have proof also on her TikTok, different documents and things that she has shared with us, the viewers, in order to prove what she's going through.
Yeah.
And this is such an important situation, because she basically has had a lot of naysayers, a lot of people who have tried to shut her down, even in the government. And she had a judge throw out the whole case at one point in time. So she's really fighting to bring awareness back to that. Basically, the judge stated, and get this, Ciera, the judge said, it sounds like he just had constipation. So, yeah, this is why we are bringing this forward, is because this is toxic. This is wrong. There is proof, and this needs to be brought out into the open. So we're not playing any games anymore. Yes? Okay? So please bring awareness to this. She already has a lot of people who have paid attention to it, but right now I feel like if you have the ability to financially support her, please do so. And if not, maybe just continue to share it, continue to get the word out there, because something is hot for people right when it comes up, but then we let it fade after a while, just like the whole freaking war in Ukraine. You know what I mean? Like, we forget that it's happening because it's not new and fresh. So please don't let this be forgotten, just like so many of our other stories have been forgotten. So we will not let Noah be forgotten. Okay?
Well, it's not going to be a happy-go-lucky episode, guys, but we do want to introduce ourselves, and we do want to kind of cover a couple of bases before we get started. So welcome to the podcast. My name is Ciera Maynard,
and I am Jania Patrick,
and together we are
the Confessing Heretics.
I guess I'll tell her. I mean, we're nothing if we're not authentic, right? So Jania and I had an idea. It's interesting because we had an idea of what we were going to talk about. We had a couple of things that we were going back and forth about. And I want to, first of all, I do want to apologize that we didn't record last week and have an episode out last week like we should have. Life got in the way. I had
had a show.
Yeah, it was my bandwidth can only go so far. Jania's, super busy, and she's got so much going on with her life. So we knew you would be there for us when we got it, and we know that the microphone's going to be there for us when we get to it, and that's where we are now. So we are a week late with the podcast, but we appreciate you hanging on. And I gotta tell you, it's really meant a lot. I'm really emotional, so I'm gonna cry a couple of times in this episode, and I just really appreciate everyone who has reached out to me. I don't know about you.
To me too. Yeah, there's been a good amount of people.
But folks who I didn't even know were listening. And it's interesting because the conversation leads to them then sharing their religious trauma or their trauma, and then in and of itself, and gosh, it's so horrible that there are so many people who are suffering with trauma. Whew, and I'm just so upset. But I love that there's so many people watching this and relating to this and enjoying what we're doing. And because we are, even though we are covering heavy stuff, and even though I am crying right now, I really love that we're doing this podcast and that you guys are coming along the journey with us. So I really want to.
It means a lot.
It does. It really does. Yeah. I'm just gonna. I'm. So we had one way we were gonna go, and we shifted gears completely. And I know that was the universe telling us that we needed to go a different direction with this podcast.
Yeah.
Is where I wanted to get to, but I wanted to thank everyone first, and I'm just an emotional mess, and I'm gonna cry. So Jania, can you just?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah. So for us, we were completely taking a different route, and it's crazy how this just kind of like this door opened, and it happened because we were talking about our subject of choice for today, and then I told her that I literally just stayed up the other night and I was watching video after video after video of this mother on TikTok trying to bring awareness to the fact that her son was sexually abused. Once again, maybe not directly in the church, but a part of a church organization that is attached to the church, and nobody in that environment is bringing awareness to it the way that it should be. So it's really heartbreaking. I feel like too, this is bringing up an issue of race at times as well, because she's a young Black woman with a beautiful little Black boy. And it seems like their voices are just not being heard. So we have the ability to have you beautiful people who listen to us so religiously that we appreciate and love so much to be able to hear this story. I really hope that you guys take it as you will and share it where you can.
Yeah.
But with that being said, Ciera and I feel like today is a day to talk about sexual trauma, as a lot of people call it, SA in the church. And I know that this is a trigger word for some people, so please, once again, we don't mean to trigger you, but we are very real here, and we are going to be very raw and honest and open with you. So
it's interesting because what kind of set off the whole thing was I was about to show Jania a TikTok that I made this morning.
Yeah, sure.
Where I just popped off about pedophiles. And we'll get into it in a second, but it was just funny because I think it was just me making that just was on my heart for some reason, because it was based off of a conversation I had with a friend of mine who said that she was listening. So thanks for listening, I appreciate it. But we just went off about pedophiles and stuff, and the people who abuse children
and freaking get away with it.
Yeah. And I guess we're getting into it, so let me just say what I'm going to say. I guess
say what you're going to say.
So my TikTok basically said that the point of it is like, yeah, you might think that you are reformed, you being an abuser. Like, you think that you're reformed, or maybe you found God, or maybe you've gone to prison and you've served your time, and you feel that you are reprieved of your crime, the abuse that you committed against that child. And to you, I want to say you can go fuck yourself, because that abuse never goes away. And I'm trying to choose my words carefully so that I'm not coming off hysterical here, but when you abuse a child in any form or fashion, and Jania and I have been through a lot of abuse, unfortunately. When you abuse a child, that abuse stays with them. It doesn't just go away. It's not an Etch-a-Sketch that you can just magically shake away. It lingers. And here I am at 36, just now being diagnosed with PTSD and with trauma, and I have depression and anxiety, and I'm bipolar 1, and I have all these, and I have a personality disorder, and it's like, who would I be if I hadn't been abused? Like, how much of this bullshit, how much of the way that I act and react is based on the abuse? And how different would I be if I hadn't gone through what I went through? And it psychologically fucked me up for a long time. And I didn't realize it until a couple of years ago that I was not right in the head exactly. And I look back over history and it's like, well, that explains a lot. Like, And I'm just so angry today. I'm just so angry. Oh, sorry. Ooh.
The angering part is coming from the fact that this shit still happens. And not only does it still happen, but it happens to the point where nothing is done about it.
Mm-mm.
Bare minimum is done about it. You barely ever hear about this shit ever being concluded or, justice being brought forward. And I know that a lot of you, or some of you, I should say, I think we have a really great audience, I'll be honest with you, but I feel like some out there may say something along the lines of like, well, but that's something that's hard to prove. I mean, yes, it is, but it's even harder to prove when you don't believe in it.
Yeah.
When you immediately discount it.
Yeah.
Tria and I are on 2 different wavelengths today. She's in the wavelength of being emotional about it, and I'm in the wavelength, I'm emotional too. I'm more angry than I am sad, because I'm tired of this shit happening over and over again.
It's just, I know people, like, I have one particular person in mind who knows that I know that they are or have been a predator in the past, and this person will do everything they can to avoid me. And they commented once on a Facebook post I had once when we were still Facebook friends. I made this huge post about predators and people who abuse children, and this person commented and they were like, well, people can change, can't they? Or like, well, what if they changed? Or what if they've tried to change? Or something like that. Like, trying to, and me being in the position I was, knowing what this person has done, and there was a police record, like, you know what I mean? Like, I had proof. There was a police record on the internet and everything, and it disappeared. So I don't know if that means that their record, like, they paid their time and like it statute of limitations. I don't know what, how, why, but it disappeared off the internet. But there was a mugshot. Like, the charges were that they had done something inappropriate. It was indecent. It was like some sort of misconduct with a minor, and there was like 2 kids were involved. And I'm like, yeah, that happened a long time ago. I get it, and you think that you've changed and you've redeemed yourself in the eyes of the community, and maybe, but at the end of the day, those 2 kids have those memories.
And that will never go away.
And those will never go away. And the worst part is, what if they do go away? That's severe trauma. That's blocking out memories, Like, so, to answer that person's question, like, I don't care if you feel like you're fucking changed. Like, you have done irreparable damage to other people. And not just other people, but children.
I really feel like somebody who, let's just say, is atoning for that part of themselves, it would haunt you. It would, in order for you to serve your time, there's no end to that service of time, because in my mind, that's something that you should think about every day. You would be living with that inner turmoil constantly. And if you don't, and you did something like that in the past, have you really ever atoned for it? Have you really ever, been working on yourself enough? Because no, that shit is something that you've scarred somebody forever.
Yeah.
That will never leave their heart, their soul.
Yeah.
And it should never leave yours.
I personally, I have the words in my brain, but I'm not gonna say. I have done things that I can't take back.
Yep. Me too.
I have done damaging things to other people. I've not abused people, but I don't want to get into it. But I have never abused a child. Like, I just, the idea of it makes me, oh God. But there are things in my life that I've done where it's just like I've cheated on my ex-husband, you know what I mean? Like, stuff like that. And there are things that haunt me.
Right.
That even though I would gladly go back to him, I don't want to talk to him ever. Just because I believe that he is in his own world and he is living his life with his new wife. And I'm like, you know what? What would my presence do for him? You know what I mean? If I were to text him and say, hey, I'm sorry. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. I just send it out in the universe and apologize almost on a weekly, if not daily basis for the things that I have done. And I just cannot imagine the absolute narcissism and absolute psychopathy that must go behind someone who can think that they can justify their actions or ever find peace within themselves because they did a thing to a child that they shouldn't have done. And I am very angry, but I'm trying to stay calm, and it's just coming out in tears.
This is a safe space, yes?
Yes.
This is a safe space. We're allowed to be angry here.
So, I don't know if I'm wrong or right here in saying, but the bottom line is this: if you're the abuser, I don't care. Like, whatever. Fuck you. I don't care. Whatever. You don't matter to me as much as what you did to those children matters to me, and how much those children matter to me, and how much their trauma and their well-being matters to me. You know, boo-hoo, I did a bad thing. Fuck you. Yeah, you did, and you live with that forever. But I don't care about you. And that was what my TikTok said.
Yeah.
That's what my TikTok said, basically. I just... And then I get here, and Jania brings up this gal, this Ciera, and her poor baby Noah, and just...
And we know that there's countless more like this.
Oh, God.
The list goes on and on and on and on and on. I asked Tria to pull up a couple statistics. Do you have those?
I do. I'm okay. I can read them if you want to read them. I can read them, whatever.
You can read them, babe, if you want to. If you're up for it.
So, okay, so... you know, we don't, but we, collective we, I see you in the boob.
Happens.
Sorry. We have heard countless jokes and conversations about Catholics and Catholicism and sex abuse in the Catholic Church, which is not funny. It's not funny.
No.
But it's in the culture of Catholic Church sex abuse priests. They kind of just go hand in hand almost.
Sexual repression.
Yeah. You know, so when I pulled up, excuse me for sniffling, but
how dare you?
How dare I sniffle?
How dare you sniffle?
I know.
You just cried a bunch.
I know. But I was looking up statistics, and it was like statistics of sexual abuse in the Catholic Church, and Catholic Church this, and Catholic Church that, and I was like, I don't want to focus on the Catholic Church because because you know. You know, it's there. It
still matters.
It still matters, but it's there.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's beaten, you know, on the head a lot. So I specifically looked for stuff that was about Protestant churches, which is churches that
are not Catholic,
basically. This one really blew my mind. And I'm on this website called notinourchurch.com. And this one right here, over 7,000 claims of sexual abuse by church staff, congregation members, volunteers, or clergy were made to just 3 insurance companies over a 20-year period. Seattle Post Intelligencer 2007. That's the citation. But over 7,000 claims were made to 3 insurance companies in the span of 20 years.
Those are the people who would speak.
It just makes me so bad. Those are the people who actually claimed it happened. Like, those are the people who stepped forward. 7,000 in a 20-year period to 3 insurance companies. Just 3 companies.
Just 3.
In just 20 years.
Just monitoring the 3.
Jesus God.
It's insane.
More than 3% of women who have attended congregation in the past month reported that they have been the object of CSM at some point or set time in their adult lives. 92% of these sexual advances had been made in secret, not in open dating relationships. And 67% of the offenders were married to someone else at the time of the advances.
Wow.
I've been there.
Uh-huh.
I've had, I've had multiple relationships that have been affairs. I'm just gonna say that. And they were married and they were good, godly men. Just gonna say it. That's part of what haunts me every day. And I made jokes about it. I made jokes about it at my show on Saturday. About my personal promiscuity. And we made light of it and stuff.
Right.
But in that there is pain. There is a lot of regret and there is a lot of guilt. A lot of that guilt comes from the shame of being a good, not being a good godly Christian girl and being promiscuous, and that shame that still lives in my heart a little bit.
Right, which is one of those things that's like you're constantly trying to heal from. Yeah, absolutely.
So, anyways, but even though I made jokes about it, if you were at my show, I did make jokes about it and stuff. We all laughed and had a good time, but this is totally different now. This is a totally different thing. But
you're okay though.
I just, it's just,
the things that stick with you like that. Like there's a lot of wounds that attach to you, and some wounds that should attach to you. And I hate to say it that way, but you're right. If you have caused that kind of irreparable damage to someone, should you ever fully get over it, absolutely you should forgive yourself. Like work on forgiving yourself. Yeah. But it should still live with you. It should still live with you. Yeah?
Here's one.
Okay.
Recently, a study of over 300 alleged, I don't know, whatever, however you say that word, child sex abuse cases in Protestant Christian congregations found the overwhelming majority took place on church grounds or at an offender's home, most frequently carried out by Caucasian male clergy or youth pastors. And the citation is Denny, Carley, and Gross, 2018. So a recent study of over 300 alleged child sex abuse cases
that we know of, once again,
in 2018.
It's just wild to me that you can even read, you can sit there, you can harp on statistics of what is available, but those are the things that are available to our knowledge. There's so many other stories that I know that have not been reported, that have not been talked about. I have had people come up to me, and just because of what I have been through in my life, and I have been more open about what I've been through just because I've really worked so hard on healing as much of that bullcrap as I possibly could. So I like to share how I've healed. Because you never know if something that you're going to say is going to, encourage somebody else down their healing path and their journey. So I had so many people who have been like, oh, this happened to me, but I've never pursued it or talked about it, or it's wild.
I'm so sorry.
Go.
I just read this and I was looking through the stats. This is all organic. This all just happened. So I'm still looking through the stats and stuff, just finding stuff. I'm really upset.
Once again, this is not what we planned today.
No, this is not. This is totally different. According to this article, there's an attachment to an article. Once again, I'm looking on notinarchurch.org or .com. Sorry. According to this article, there are 2.7 church shootings a year. Church shootings. There are estimated 378,000 congregations in the United States, which means the likelihood of any congregation being involved in a shooting in any year is approximately 1 in 126,000, or 0.000000079%. You are more likely to be abused by someone in the church than your congregation being involved in a church shooting.
Wow.
That's why. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
These are upsetting me. I just. And then they're talking about pornography, and you know what? We totally talk about pornography.
And I think we should sometime.
But sometime. But like there are stats here, and I just. I don't know. That's different than what we're talking about, and so I don't know. This is all not just about abuse on this website. Is what I'm looking at.
Read that top part though.
This sign. There's a sign and I'll flip this around so you can kind of see. There's a sign here. Abuse of power comes as no surprise. And it's clearly a hand painted sign. Someone has put on a fence.
Abuse of power comes as no surprise.
It's so sad.
And it's wild because you think about these sexual abuse cases with children, and that is such an apt phrase to utilize. Because once again, like I said, with the whole situation with Noah, why do people target little ones like that? There's multiple reasons, but you've got to know that a lot of it is because A, they can control, and B, like a lot of times those children don't have the voices that they need to speak up and stand up for themselves. Which is why it's so important that we do.
Yeah.
Yeah? Tell us, Trey, anything else?
I'm just getting mad because it's all shit that we all already know, or we should know. Study child sexual abuse in Protestant Christian congregations, utilizing data from 326 cases of alleged child sex abuse that occurred at or through activities provided by Protestant Christian congregations between 1982 and 2014. The overwhelming majority of identified offenders were male. Specifically, male offenders were represented by 98.8%. Age range is 18 to 88 years of age. And then there's a breakdown of the overwhelming majority, 80.1%, of offenders were employed in an official capacity within their respective churches, with a substantial minority of 19.9% being volunteers. And then it breaks it down from pastor to youth minister, youth volunteer, associate pastor, music pastor, volunteer, Sunday school teacher, deacon, church member, camp worker. The most frequent male offender role was as a pastor at 34.9%.
That's disgusting.
5 specific locations, five specific location types at church, the offender's home, offsite, church-sponsored activity, and victim's home emerged. So at church, at the pastor's home or the offender's home, off-site somewhere, and then a church-sponsored activity, and then somewhere at their home, at the victim's home.
So, I mean, it's with our personal trauma that we have endured.
I'm laughing because
it's true. It's very true. Our situation, it was a deacon in the church. Yes.
And his stepson.
And his child. Yeah. And that was off-site, but it was usually during or around church-related activities. So it was, it was really screwed up. And the saddest part is that we're still reading about it and we're still talking about it, and it's something that's still happening.
Well, I look back through my life, and you know, Jania and I were abused a couple of times by different people throughout our lives and stuff, and I believe there's a statistic that I haven't read it, but I heard it on a podcast where it's like, if you've been abused once, chances are you've been abused a couple of times.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and it just sucks, but there has been abuse throughout our lives, but the big one was in church.
Yeah.
And I mean, actually, I was abused by a couple people who claimed to be Christian. I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking about it too, because majority of the people that actually everybody that I can think of that doled out abuse in my life were some type of Christian
or religious.
Yeah.
Religious and
organization that they were a part of, and that they believed in a higher energy or better energy than what they were putting out. That's for darn sure. So this is a very difficult subject for Taria and I to talk about, obviously, because we've been through so much, and it's been a long time since we've been through it too.
Yeah, it has.
And yeah, so the reason why we feel like we need to talk about Noah and children like Noah is because we understand it.
Yeah. Yeah. I just, for it to be any child, it just, but for it to be a 3-year-old with this kid, I can't. Here's my thing, is A, I've been through it, but B, I love kids. Like, kids are so awesome.
Yeah, they are.
Like, there's some people who are like, kids are annoying, kids are this. I had a kid, this is related. I went to Hot Topic the other day to get a dress, and this chick was a couple chicks were standing in front of me, and they had a little boy with them. And he just kept turning around talking to me. And I was like, yeah, what's up? And I'm just sitting there looking at the pins. I'm always looking at pins, right? Mm-hmm. My obsession with pins began, I think, at Hot Topic. So there I am, 36
I thought it was Hard Rock Cafe.
Oh, it was. Well, the Hard Rock Cafe pins is one thing. I'm talking about, like, the button pins.
Got you. Yeah.
But, I was sitting there looking at the buttons, and he just starts talking to me. And the lady turns around, the one chick, she turns around and she's like, oh, I'm so sorry, he's my nephew, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm an aunt. Like, I love kids. Like, no, I'm like, he's cool, like, he can talk to me well, whatever, like. And so, I have babysat kids since I was 8. I've directed children's
shows. Which is wild to think about.
Which is crazy because my nephew is 8, and that's what Jenny's laughing.
And I'm like, there's no way.
There's no way we would put a baby.
He's fantastic, but like, no way.
But I've been changing diapers since before that. I mean, I love kids, I don't want any of my own. I've always loved being that surrogate person, that extra helping hand. You know what I mean? Being the anti-TT.
Like, being able to really appreciate kids.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, so this hits a little hard. I mean, it hits really hard, period. But it hits really, really hard because we're talking about children. We're in this, it's one specific child, this Noah child. Kids are just so cool, And they're so precious, and they're so unique, and they have so much to live for, and they're right in the beginning of their life, and their brains are forming, and they're learning all the ins and outs about life, and who to be, and how to be, and what shoes match with this skirt, like stupid shit, and should I wear my Power Rangers shirt, or my Batman shirt, and that's just your daughter, But kids should only worry about what kids should worry about.
Kids should freaking be kids, man.
They should be the babies they are, and I'm 36. I've said it before. I'm 36, and so anybody under the age of fucking 30 is a child to me. As a baby, somebody 20 years old, they could probably make more money than me, and they're still, you're just a baby,
right?
I don't know where I was going. I love kids.
You love kids, and kids are precious, and this is, I think, one of the biggest things for me as being a mother of 2 young children, and fighting for this awareness in a lot of ways, and trying to speak up on a freaking podcast and have you all listen to our stories and our past. A lot of this is coming from the fact that, like, I refuse to allow this to happen to my kids. Not that we can control everything that happens to our children, but when this happens to a child, no matter how old they are, it takes a bit of their spirit. It takes a part of their energy. It takes a part of who they are.
Yeah.
And
it brings a darkness in.
And it freaking breaks the kid. Yeah. It breaks the kid. And the world is going to do enough of that on its own as they get older, but why are we doing it to fucking 3-year-olds? Why are we putting them through something? I'm getting angry. I'm sorry.
I'm so upset right now.
And why are we putting them through something like that adults are still trying to fucking figure out? A lot of adults still try to figure out their sex lives and their, sexual expression and stuff like that when they turn freaking 18 years old on. A lot of us are just now getting into our sexual prime in our 30s and feeling confident in what we know that looks like in our life and what that feels like and what we want and what we desire from that. How dare we put that energy on a small child like that? But it's so crazy because Tree has said this before, but I watch my children in awe. Because when I was my daughter's age, I was already sexually abused. I was already touched and screwed with and all kinds of stuff. And I am getting to a point now. I am freaking 31 years old. I'm almost 32. Mm-hmm. I'm finally getting to a point where I'm recognizing more of my inner self and who I am through dealing with my trauma, through recognizing a lot of my darkness inside of me, because there's been a lot. And through that, like, I've almost, I don't know how to say it, but I've just come to really appreciate my children and children as a whole, because they are themselves now.
Yeah.
They are themselves now. And watching my kids be untainted by a situation of that degree or of that level. And believe me, if they were, I would know. I would. Because you're freaking kids. You can, like, the problem with you and I, and the reason why I feel like our parents didn't really recognize it the way that they should have, was because we were already traumatized at such a young age. They didn't know us beyond that. They didn't know what we were without that.
Oh, God.
Isn't that twisted?
God.
Right. So Taria and I are now at a point where it's like we are figuring out that part of ourselves, that truest form. And I feel like as children, the reason why there is something to be cherished, to be cherished and to be protected at all freaking costs is because they are their truest self now. And as they grow older, they're going to have all the bullshit of the world just poured on top of them. That's just going to fucking happen with life, because life is shit. Life is a series of beauty and crap. And that's kind of like, really?
You guys just ran that stoplight or something. That was really funny. I'm sorry. This guy just like came by in his like little crotch rocket and just blew through these 2 fucking stop signs.
Which is, I'm saying, really, I'm slightly frustrated because my children run across this road. So I'm just
sorry.
Saying. Anyway. But yeah, I basically what I'm trying to say is that I'm now at 31 years old figuring out my truest form and expression of self, because I'm like unraveling all that bullshit, all of the crap that was thrusted on us. And I've like looked at Tyler so many times, my husband, recently, and I've been like, so this is what I'm like without all of that shit.
I realized somebody made a meme. There was a meme or something about you're still that child. This is your adult body. The mortal coil that you wear.
Yeah.
Is adult, but in your brain. I mean, for me, I took it and was like, yeah, I'm still that awkward kid. Like and I mean, maybe there's something wrong with that, because there are people my age who are very well put together, to have their lives.
Seemingly so,
they seemingly do, whereas that's true, you're right. But there are people who seemingly have their lives together, and I feel so out of it, and I realize that I'm just now catching up to being an adult, because I've spent so much time like being repressed and being inside myself and being this scared child. And I'm now like at the point where I feel comfortable being an adult, And I've been so scared of being an adult for so long because I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to say we weren't prepared to be adults because we were I feel like being sheltered in the church, like we were, suppressed a lot of stuff for us. And I think that there were things that maybe our parents didn't know.
Right.
To tell us, you know?
Well, because they were suppressed in a lot of ways, too.
Yeah.
Usually this is, like, things that have just been kind of passed on and passed down and all that crap, and, yeah.
But, anyway.
And also, I mean, everybody deals with trauma differently, right? So, Taria and I definitely dealt with our trauma in different ways because we are different people, yes?
Yeah.
So, like, Taria, for instance, kind of went into that, like, child state of self, and not the healthy child, not the one where she's expressing herself, but the one where she's scared of everything. And I was scared, but the way that I took my fear was I put on an armor and I pretended like I was grown up before I was. I had so many people tell me that as we were growing up. You remember that shit?
We've mentioned this before. I think we mentioned this before, but I'm going to restate it because you talk to these kids, and usually it's Christian kids, you know, good godly Christian children who follow the line. They will, yes ma'am, yes sir. You know, they are just the most polite kids you ever met, you know, and they're just so kind, never say a sideways word. And you're just like, wow, those kids are so well put together. But then you wonder how much abuse and how much discipline went into that child to make them kowtow and just kind of relent. Because kids are naturally rebellious and fun and outspoken and spirited.
Yeah.
You know? Kids shouldn't be like little prisoners just walking along and doing what you're telling them to do. You know?
It's true.
You know?
I personally had a friend of mine for a while who kept kind of like bashing that kind of into my head. The concept that we needed to make sure that our kids were a specific way when they walked into a store. And like they would do this thing where their kids never acted out of line because they were too scared of what would happen.
Yeah.
And what's happened now is you can feel like that has traumatically, unfortunately, affected that child. And that's the thing is, and I listened to a podcast part of a podcast about that recently, where this guy was saying he's like a parenting coach. And part of what he was saying was like, if you have a well-behaved, well-disciplined child, then you have an abused child.
Oh, shit.
You do. Because children are meant to have spirits. Like, they're meant to be not in the structure of what we know as adults. So they're going to act out. They're going to misbehave. They're going to do things misbehave. You know, they're going to do things that are not, you know, comfortable with our norms and our structure that we have created as adults in this society. So honestly, it's more of something, and I love this too because he also said something in a different part of a different podcast. He said something along the lines of like, children are actually our teachers, not the other way around.
Yes.
We are not meant to be teaching them how to be in life. They are meant to teach us how to let more of life go.
Damn.
Let more of the bullshit of life, let more of the structure and the rigidity, the things that have brought us away from being joyful and happy individuals. Like, kids are that. They are that. We are the ones that fuck them up.
Yeah.
And the abuse is what fucks them up. So, yeah, anyway, okay, I could go on and on and on, but it was something that to me, because this happens an awful lot, like Selah, for instance. Solomon's like he's like a really chill kind of kid.
Yeah.
Like, he's still kind of, he has his moments of crazy, but for the most part, like, he's a really chill, peaceful kid. You know, but Selah, she's this fiery, feisty, like, energetic child who will say whatever the hell she wants to say and who will act however the hell she wants to act, because that in her mind is herself. That's just her being herself. And you know, and there are times where it's like, you know, you have to rein some of that in, but not to the degree and to the point where, you know, she's that well-behaved, well-mannered child. Because if I did that to my daughter and made her be exactly like what we were raised to be, Selah would lose herself.
That I can't even. That hurts my heart.
Yeah.
It hurts my heart so bad because I look at her and I see a little bit of me, you know?
Right.
You know, because
I do too. Ever since she's been here, I do too. Yeah.
You know, just because we're both little fiery areas, you know what I mean? And I feel like because people told my parents that I was hyperactive.
Right.
And people told my mom and dad that I was hyper, you know, and I admonished my parents for the way I acted. And
Mom and Dad didn't have all the answers or know what to do, and all that mental health awareness that we have now that we're still building.
Yeah.
It was not available at that time.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like they did not know better at that point.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a lot that they have learned as well.
Yeah.
And that they're still learning.
They are. I think. No, I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna say what I was gonna say. It's okay. No. Let's sorry, I'm just getting emotional again, and I don't want to go down a road that's gonna make me cry again. So, we're just really emotional today. We're just angry and we're sad, and you know, I want to say what Jania said a second ago or a little bit ago. You know that we got this story with this little Noah that we're highlighting, that we're talking about. And it breaks my heart because it's just another brick in the wall, you know what I mean? Just another one. Just another child. Another story. Another allegation. Another crime. Another, you know?
And one that's not finding the justice that it deserves. And I feel like, so for Taria and I interrupted you.
No. I was just I want to say one more thing, and then I want you to say what you were going to say. The worst part of this whole thing with Noah's mom is that she's being harassed and she's being stalked based on a video that Jania and I just watched. The video that she had just posted, this Ciera had posted just before we started recording this, that she's being stalked and harassed, and so she needs support.
She does not feel safe.
She does not feel safe. So please, go to our TikTok and watch the video that we posted. But go to her TikTok, and we'll have all of her information in the video here and on our episode, and we'll post it on Facebook and stuff. I'll make sure it's on everything.
Because it's not our voices in the story that matter here. This is not our story to tell.
No.
But we will bring awareness to it, and we encourage you to look further into it for yourselves and listen to her words. Listen to her story.
Yeah.
Listen to her part of things, please. Don't just listen to us and then take what we say as, truth. Go find your own truth with it, please.
Yeah.
But
Yes, please. That's all I was going to say. So
you were totally fine. You were totally fine. I was actually trying to figure out what I needed to say there.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
we got off there.
You said Taria and I. Like you're about to.
Yeah, I was trying to think that.
Were you about to talk about our?
Yes, I was going to say, because highlighting the justice part of Justice for Noah, right? Like, there are so many of these stories that continue forward without having justice being brought to the situation, which really freaking sucks, because then that leads you as an individual to try to figure out, how do I come to terms with this? How do I close this chapter? Because nobody's helping me close it, so I have to figure it out for myself. Taria and I, for instance, never had any kind of justice from our situation, but part of our issue, and this is another thing that I really want to encourage people who are listening, if your child has been dealing with sexual abuse or has been even hinting around on it, or if you yourself have been dealing with it, get it out now. Get it out now. Let somebody hear your story. Report it now. Don't wait. Don't sit on it. Don't think that at some point when I feel the strength with it to get it out, I'll do it. Like, that stuff does not justice never comes from that. And I hate to say that, but that's the way that our system is. Our system is very corrupt and very screwed on a lot of this. And these stories just go unheard, they just get pushed away. And I know that happened to Taria and I. And for us, though, it was years removed from the situation that we finally kind of came out about it because we were so freaking scared. We were so scared. And I really, also parents that are listening to this, and maybe you are in the church, if you're not, whatever, sexual abuse happens everywhere, unfortunately. We're just highlighting what happens in the church, right?
Yeah.
But it happens everywhere. And as parents, be open with your children about their bodies. Be open with your children about talking about other people's tendencies. I don't know how to best say that, but do you get what I'm saying?
Can I just say something? I'm so happy you're going where we're going because I was about to say something.
Yeah.
I shared this post the other day or yesterday. I shared posts like it, but basically it's like if your daughter can't wear shorts because Uncle Steve is coming to the barbecue, then maybe Uncle Steve shouldn't be coming to the fucking barbecue.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I can't tell you how many times as a child I had to change my clothes, or I had to put on a bra, or I had to put on pants, or I had to cover up my body because a man was coming in the room.
Yep.
Sometimes my own fucking dad. Oh, making me feel like I have to be ashamed of my body. There's something wrong with that's going. And also, can we say, you're watching the video, I chose this outfit because I thought we were going to be talking about something different and I was going to be dressed a little bit more appropriate. So I feel bad if you're watching the video, my tits are kind of hanging out a little bit and I'm feeling a little terrible about that.
Why?
Because we're talking, I don't know. If you're watching the video, whatever.
You're coming forward as you right now, and I feel like that's appropriate.
Yeah.
Like, you're okay.
I'm just...
Why is that shame there? There's that, right?
I'm just saying, there's that
Isn't that continuation of that
it
stupid fucking energy that's been around?
Stop shaming your fucking kids, man. Like, stop. I can't... And stop calling their body parts cutesy shit. Tell them what the actual vernacular is.
We've been getting on Solomon lately about that because he'll say, oh gosh, what is it that he's been saying lately?
Tyler said that he said something about getting hit in his no-no.
No. And he hears that from other kids at school, which I have to tell you right now, like, for me is a little bit infuriating as a parent. You can't, control necessarily what other kids' parents have taught them.
Right.
But this is why we're talking about it, because I have very adamantly, since our kids were little, I have said that is your penis, that is your vagina. And those are not bad words. Those aren't words that should make you blush. That is your anatomy. That is your anatomy. That is your body.
Like arm.
Yeah.
Or ear.
Right. If you can say these words, you should be able to say
breast.
Yes. Without blushing, without feeling ashamed of it, without, pulling your energy back in on that and saying, no, I can't do that. Sorry, I use the word energy a lot, guys. It's my thing.
Also, we got dogs in the back porch, and we got construction workers over here, so there's a lot of ambiance.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So
you're present with us on the porch, guys.
The dogs are on the back porch. We're on this porch.
Yes, yeah. True. But yeah, so it's just one of those things that kind of infuriates me as a parent. My son he felt embarrassed to call it that, and we talked about why he felt embarrassed on calling it that, because his entire childhood it's always just been his anatomy, his penis, and that matters, by the way. That matters. That vernacular matters, because if you go into court, say your child is sexually abused at some point in time, and you go into court, and maybe some of you have faced this if you've ever had to do this for yourself, and as a child you say, this person touched me in my no-no. Like, the court does not take that as valid, what's the word I want to use here?
Yes. Testimony.
Testimony, thank you. It's not a valid testimony. You have to give the specific terminology as to where you were inappropriately touched. which is just wild. I listened to a story, and I'm sure some of you have heard it too, or read it, I should say, about a little girl who called it her cookie.
Oh God, I was thinking about that. Oh.
And so she went to, when she was testifying in court about the situation, she said cookie, and because of that, the case was thrown out.
Yeah.
So let's be advocates for our kids. Let's be advocates for children, even if they're not yours. You know, don't shame a child for saying their body parts, because that matters. That freaking matters. We shouldn't shame a child for being themselves and wearing what they feel like they should wear. We shouldn't shame children for being children. For being children.
You know, I'm about to direct a children's show. And I wrote the play, and I'm going to direct it, and I'm really excited about it. But I'm going to cry again. But I'm so scared. Because I'm not scared. I'm concerned because I'm just, with the eyes I have and the ears I have and the brain I have now as a 36-year-old adult. You know, I've directed children's shows. I've directed tons of kids shows. I mean, you know, from 2009 to 2018, I directed about 20 shows, you know? And so I've dealt with children, so I'm not scared about that. But in this day and age, I have to watch where I am at all times, what other adults are in the room. I gotta watch where the kids are at all times. I'm gonna have to, you know, all these things. I overanalyze stuff already, but now I'm even more. I'm more hypersensitive to it nowadays. About, you know, children's lives. Like, there's a theater company I know where they had background checks for everybody involved in the play that the kids I went and saw. They had background checks for everybody who was involved in the play. Nobody is allowed in the dressing room unless they had a background check.
Wow, I think that's excellent.
So I can't afford to get everyone a background check for my show, but I'm certainly gonna have volunteers like signing waivers or some shit, like, but and these are things, and I'm just saying this because this is what we have to do. Is we have to be proactive for kids. We have to protect our kids, and we
have to assume that stuff is going to happen everywhere.
There are people,
you just have to assume.
Well, there are people who are auditioning, and I need to talk to you about that because there's some people who I think are going to audition who I may not cast in the show because I don't trust them with kids.
Right. I think that's appropriate.
You know.
And it's really crappy that you have to kind of go there with that, but I mean, it's also just
that's where my brain...
you have to advocate for these children.
Yeah,
you just do.
That's where my brain's been for the last. I mean, I've been planning this play since February. You know, which is a very quick turnaround for me. But I've been thinking about this the whole time, and more. And now as we sit here, I'm thinking about it, which is why I'm bringing it up. Just the idea that. That little girl's driving that golf cart. Can you see that?
I do.
There's an adult with this little girl, but she's driving a golf cart across the road. I love small towns.
We live in a small town.
Oh my god.
One thing that I was going to say was, like, with the situation, we're going to go back to Noah's situation just as an example. But with this situation, part of the reason why, and she'll explain it in her video, Ciera will, but part of the reason why this situation happened was because the teacher, sorry, I'm getting really angry. The teacher sent this 3-year-old child to the bathroom by themselves. That was across the hall during class. So Noah went to the potty alone.
That just makes it so much worse.
Right. So once again, we have to be advocates for our children. Yes, we have to be proactive for our kids. For instance, like, some people probably look at me, and even as you're listening to me as a parent, like, I'm not freaking perfect, guys, but I am very proactive about certain situations. My kids don't go to stay the night at other people's houses. Does not happen. I just, no. Even if I feel like I can trust them, it still doesn't happen, because it happened for us with people that my parents felt like they could trust inside and out.
Yeah.
But anyway, my kids do not go to a bathroom without a trusted adult. So whether that's my husband, myself, Taria, my mom, they don't go to the bathroom without, or dad, without a trusted adult. Because things happen in bathrooms. People are already in the bathroom, you don't even know it, and they're waiting for a child. Stuff like that happens all the time. So you might not see that there's somebody else in there, but there's somebody else in there because they're hiding themselves, and they're waiting. You have to be proactive with these things, and I hate to say it that way, but it's so true.
I have that mentality, or that thought process of people talking about how our generation's too soft and everything's we gotta be protected from everything and this, that, and the other. And it's
I'm
like,
gonna drink my tea.
But and then it's just like, yeah, because we are looking back and going, hey, that thing that we went through, that was called abuse, and I don't want that to happen to my kid.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are all going around and we're trying to. We're some people are helicopter parents and stuff, and sometimes we're like, we're watching and we're make sure but you have to almost, because we know the terrible things that happen to children, and you can call us paranoid, whatever. It's interesting. I listen to true crime podcasts and stuff, and I listen to some stories, and they're just so horrible. And it's just some of the things that people do to other people are truly horrible, and to children. And I listen to these stories, and I'm like, and I just want to turn it off sometimes. And I'm like, I'm going to listen to this, and I'm going to because it's a reality. It actually happened. That victim's story needs to be heard.
It matters.
It matters. I listened to this podcast called Small Town Murder. They're awesome. It's an amazing podcast. Highly recommend. But they picked small towns, and they once did Logan, like when they once did Logan, Ohio, a long time ago. Like, so they just did their 400th episode like a week ago.
Wow.
So they've been doing it for a couple of years and stuff. But they go through the states, and sometimes across the pond to London or whatever, and they'll pick like small towns, like small populations, and crimes and murders that happen and stuff. And that's what I listen to. And so I have these thoughts in my head constantly of like, you could get murdered anywhere. Like, someone could assault you at any time. I had a moment the other day where I was, I work for a company that does realty and stuff. And I was down taking pictures of new apartments. And I heard this as I'm going to open the door. My car's right behind me. I go to the apartment door. I hear, "Excuse me, ma'am." I turn around, these two men are walking towards me. And I bristle up. And he goes, "Who owns these apartments?" And I go, and I tell him the name. Very curt, like this. And I almost went, and I had to put myself in check. I'm like, don't be rude, because you don't know the situation.
Right.
You don't know why he's talking to you. And in my mind, I was just, like, I'm like, and he was scrawny. I could have taken him, whatever. But I don't know if they have any weapons on them. I don't know who these people are. It was a broad daylight. It was like noon. You know what I mean? It was not, it was, but I still live in fear. But in a healthy fear where I appreciate that there is danger everywhere, but I still live my life. Just with the knowledge. You know what I mean? But yeah, and the guy just wanted to know about the apartments. They just wanted, because it was like...
Right, and majority of the time that's what you're going to come across. Yeah. You're going to come across innocent situations like that. But there is that one time that it's not.
And so you've got, but you have random strangers who walk up to people, and they like to approach, children sometimes. And you can't let, if I had a kid with me, I would have been like, I would have been like, don't talk to me. I have a child with me, you know what I mean? Like, and luckily I didn't.
I watch people in public all the time, because there's Selah in particular is a very lovely little girl. Solomon's a lovely little boy, but a lot of times Selah brings attention. Like, people find her interesting. So you will see a lot of people like smile at her and stuff like that. I've had a couple of times where somebody would like reach out to her, and I've had to like kind of push her to the side.
Oh my god!
Just because, and
she's not a dog. Like,
it was just kind of like, it would be innocent touching, but for me, I'm just kind of like, you don't know my kid. Like, I don't know you. Don't touch my kid.
And I hate,
you know
what I hate about this is that I'm the kind of, I've worked at the zoo for several years, and when I'm in the blue shirt and the khakis, I can walk up to kids and be like, how are you doing? I like your shoes. Why? What's your favorite animal? You know, that's my job, is to sit there, because usually I'm with the costume character ambassador and stuff, you know, somebody, you know what I mean? And so I'm like already like, yuck, 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 you know? And so, like, you know,
I'm talking about random people at a grocery store, that kind of stuff. Like,
right, but I try not to be that random. I'm just saying, all I have to say, when I'm not at the zoo, I still have that mentality where I want to be like, oh, that little girl's shoes are cool. Like, because I love kids, right? And it makes me sad because I stifle myself, because I know that there are people like you out there who, if I walked up to, if you didn't know me and I saw Sayla and Solomon, I would be like, those are cute kids. Like, I want cute, you know,
you can say everything that you want to say.
Just don't touch my kid.
Don't touch my kid.
And I would never touch. I used to work for Walmart, and I would, and they have Amber Alerts, and Code Adam is what it's called at Walmart, and where a kid goes missing. And, you know, so I was trained, you know, to be very cognizant about where children are. And there were moments in that job. First of all, keep your kids with you at Walmart. Keep your damn kid with you at Walmart. Why is your kid wandering out the fucking door, toddling? I had a baby once, just toddling out the front door, and I purposely was like, I had clothes or some shit, I dropped it in the floor and took off, and was just kind of like refereeing, kind of not touching the child, shepherding, mm-hmm. You know, like kind of hurting her, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And finally someone showed up and was like, oh, that's my baby, and I'm like, oh, is it? Because I could have taken him.
Not only that, but like the child could have gone outside, got hit by a car. You know,
he was heading for the door.
Yeah,
that, you know what I mean. Yeah. Oh god, that shit. Sorry, that shit pisses me off. And so when people, side note, when people make fun of those parents who have their kids on leashes, like, fuck that. At least their kids attached to them.
I mean, seriously though, like, sometimes that's what you gotta do. You gotta do what you gotta freaking do, man.
Keep your kid attached to you. I'm sorry if you don't want to hold hands with your kid, but you know what? You gotta hold hands with the kid.
You decided to have a kid.
Watch your damn kid. Ooh, sorry.
No. It's an infuriating situation because that happens so freaking frequently. You know what's really crappy? Because, you know, as a parent, like I told you, like, I'm like that where I'll be like, don't freaking touch my kid. Tyler is this 6'3" big man, you know. His figure can be a little imposing on children and women. Women in particular, he talks about it all the time. He's like, I'll start to, like, talk to somebody just kind of being friendly, and they'll shy away from me, or they'll, like, they get freaked out and they'll, like, you know, go away from me and stuff. And he's like, and sometimes it's...
Thank you for joining us for this episode.
Hold on, guys. Sorry about that.
What was that?
Sometimes what happens is, you know, he'll be walking out to the car and there's a woman in front of him and she'll be like looking over her shoulder constantly at him, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And it just sucks because, unfortunately, like, for him, he's not that way. Like, he's such a freaking gentle giant, a gentle spirit.
He's the kindest, friendliest fella.
And he loves kids too.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, he is a teacher as well. Like, mm-hmm. He substitute teaches and stuff. So he genuinely cares about kids. So he'll, like, talk up a conversation with your kid too, or if somebody's not watching their child and they're, like, wandering off or whatever, like, he'll be like, hey, you might want to go back to your parents, that kind of thing. And sometimes parents bristle at that. Right. But he's always, like, everywhere we go, he's, like, eagle-eyeing for children, like, making sure that they're okay and that they're safe.
Yep.
Because sometimes parents don't freaking pay attention, or they don't see what's going on with their kid. He does it all the time at the freaking playground. He'll tell me stories like, such and such kid was, like, you know, about to fall off the freaking playground, and their little teeny tiny child, and their parent was nowhere, and
oh my God.
Yeah. So it sucks for people like him who actually do give a crap about kids, but because of who he is, big white male. You know, he has to be cautious about how people view him. And he has that in the back of his mind. Like, people sometimes think that I'm scary. Sometimes people think that, you know, I'm going to harm somebody. And that's hard. That's really hard for him to kind of navigate, but he also navigates it lovingly, and in a way where he's like, I don't fault them for it, you know?
Yeah.
You can't fault people for that, because you have to recognize that they're doing it because they give a crap about
They're kid.
their kid.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that.
Yeah. So, anything else that you need? Other thoughts that you have? There's so much that we could unravel with this, to be honest with you guys, because there's a lot still from our own past that we could talk about, but we don't want to beat it, beat it either, because it is in our past, and it's something that, as much as we have been through, I think we both recognize it doesn't define who we are today. It can. It can, but it doesn't.
No, I'm exhausted. I'm really tired.
Right. Because this shit is heavy. It's a lot to deal with, and it's happening, and it's uncomfortable. Justice for Noah, though. Please take a look at that. Please, anybody else that you know who has gone through something similar, stand up for them. Be an advocate. Be a voice for our children. Be a voice for children in church. And if you have experienced something like that, please let your voice be heard too. Every story matters. Every situation matters. If you ever feel like you want to talk it out with anybody, whether it's on the podcast or otherwise, you're more than welcome to, reach out to us. We never want to just air something to air it. We're here for our audience. And we recognize that there's so many of us who have been through something similar. So please make sure that you're also getting the help that you need if you've ever been through something like this before. Make sure that you're reaching out to your doctor, your therapist, whoever. Get your mental health under control with the situation as much as you possibly can. Take care of yourselves, please.
Get help. Know that you're worth it. Know 100% that you are worth getting help and bettering yourself. You have a life to live, and it is worth living.
And just like we said, the past does not have to define you.
No, it doesn't.
It does not.
It does not. Thank you for hanging in there with us, guys.
Yes. Long podcast, but we love you all. We
do.
appreciate you for listening.
Yeah.
And Sharia's going to go rest now.
Well, I'm going to edit this video and get some links up and stuff. But in all seriousness, we really appreciate you guys following along, liking and sharing our stuff. And I don't feel like plugging anything right now, just because it's just really somber. Let's just
Justice for Noah.
Justice for
plug
Noah.
that.
Let's just focus on that for today, okay? Go look up Ciera, and I'm gonna, like I said, we'll plug all of her stuff in the YouTube and on the episode, and we'll put it on Facebook and Instagram and everything. I'm gonna just blast it all over the place because we just can't let this go. We can't let this go, and we'll continue to advocate for folks as we can. So, like Jania said, if you hear of other stories like that, let us know. All right. Love you guys.
We're sending you love. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.